Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Yaneli and today we're going to be looking at Mooncat's DANSE MACABRE. Hopefully I pronounced it somewhat decently. I am not fluent in French and barely fluent in English and Spanish, so please forgive me for the mispronunciations that I will be probably doing throughout this video. This collection consists of 8 polishes. Now these polishes are a range of different formulas. We have magnetics, thermals, linear holographics, question mark. We'll talk about that more in depth. And of course, as a disclaimer, I did not purchase this collection myself. Mooncat was nice enough to send it over to me as gifted PR. I'm not obligated to post about it, talk about it, or do anything about it, but I do want to showcase these polishes off to you and help you make better informed decisions if this is something you're looking for. Without further ado, the curtain is rising and we got a show to put on. Our first ensemble is The Living Doll, and this is a light pastel pink base with blue shimmers going throughout, and those blue shimmers tend to have a little yellow lean to it, kind of making the pink base a little yellow leaning too. And something I don't see being shown often is how different the shimmers can look on a phone camera versus a standard camera, like in this case my Sony. And for me, the phone camera overemphasizes the elements of this polish, like the blue shimmers looks very blown out, very contrasty, aura-like almost, whereas the Sony camera is more true to life for me. So this polish is intentionally sheer. However, on the first coat, I didn't really feel like it was that sheer, at least from what I was expecting. I was expecting like a barely there kind of thing, but this one built up really nicely. I did do 3 coats out of curiosity just to see if there was a difference with the second coat and the third coat. And honestly, as you can see here, I think the pink is just ever so more prominent on the third coat than it is on the second coat. On the second coat, you definitely see more visible nail line and almost my little moon crescent of sorts. The third coat does provide more of a fuller coverage, but if I hold my nail up to a light source, I will still see that nail line. But overall, formulation of this was very smooth and easy to work with. The viscosity is very nice. It's not thick to where I felt like I needed a thinner. Next up, we have Heart on a Platter, and this is a nice deep linear holographic red with what I believe to be some sort of red shimmer, either red holographic that shifts over to this red shimmer of sorts. Not too entirely sure on it, but on the first coat it did apply beautifully. However, it was just ever so slightly patchy in some areas, and so I went in with a second coat, and that again gave me really excellent coverage. And I do want to compare the 2 coats here, the first coat and the second coat, so you can see a little bit of a difference, but honestly not so much unless you really scrutinize the nail. So this could be a on-the-go type of shade as well. Overall formula was very excellent. Linear hollow polishes are really easy to work with. The only caveat is I wish I could see the hollow flare more. I feel like Mooncat likes to do these subtle hollow flares compared to the hollow flares that I get when I do a hollow taco linear polish. Next up we have Pearl Clutcher, and this is a white silvery polish with pink to blue shimmers, and honestly it's either because it reflects light very well or there is some white shimmer in the mix here, because this is a very metallic-y, chromy, pearlescent polish. Now with these types of polishes, you are going to get your brush strokes visible there. They're kind of inevitable, honestly, so be cautious of how you finish off your coats. For instance, you don't want to leave the last brush stroke from the center of the nail to the top because that would be visible. Overall application of this is very nice, very easy to apply. The main caveat's honestly the brush strokes, and here I'm trying to showcase a little bit of the shiftiness of it. Like there's the blue, it's very hard to occasionally see the pink, but it is there, it's just at certain angles. So I dubbed this as a 2-coater for me personally. I know the pink shiftiness can kind of be a little bit of a delusion of maybe there being patchiness, or maybe it's this white shimmer reflecting thing that's causing me to not see the patchiness. But for me, after inspecting it, I feel like 2 coats was plenty. Some might need a 3rd coat, but again, that's very dependent on application style and whatnot. Moving on to our first magnetic, we have Clair Lune, and this is a mauve, lilac-y, purple magnetic polish with the magnetic pole being borderline silver, but not entirely so. It is like a very, very light purple that borderlines silver. Now on the first coat, I had excellent coverage. I was very shocked. This one does allow brush strokes to happen when it is unmagnetized. So again, if you want to wear it unmagnetized, be cautious of how you leave your last brush stroke, but other than that, It gave me excellent coverage. The formula was on the thicker side because it is a magnetic, not thick to where I felt compelled to add thinner, but thick in the sense that it's very different from the last couple of shades we have swatched so far. So the magnetic shimmers in here definitely alter the overall look of this polish, making it appear like a light metallic purple of sorts, when in actuality the base color is a much darker purple, as you can see when we magnetize the polish. So in the velvet effect, you get the silvery purple magnetic pull in the forefront, and as you shift your nail around, you can kind of get a glimpse of the darker purple. However, you really get a look of the darker shade in the cat eye effect when we centralize the magnetic particles, revealing this beautiful shade of dark purple. Next up, we have Requiem for a Swan, and this is a black jelly based polish with these, what Mooncat described in the pamphlet here as translucent flakes and hollow in the mix. So I was curious on how translucent these flakes are, and I picked one up with my orange stick, and you can see that it is kind of transparent of sorts, but as the light hits it at certain angles, it almost gives it a reflective look, which I think impacts the overall vibe of this polish, giving it a somewhat reflective aspect to it. And also the flakes themselves are very prominent despite being translucent. They almost give off a grayish vibe when you're top coating it and whatnot. So for me, I did do 3 coats because on the second coat, I did feel there was some patchiness, but honestly, to an untrained eye or to someone just looking at the nails, they're not gonna notice a difference between 2 coats and 3 coats. Like, let me know in the comments, like, could you tell a difference between the second coat and the third coat as I'm showing it here? Because even to me, I don't see much of a difference. Now, formula wise, this polish is a little bit thick, not thick to, again, where I felt compelled to add thinner, but it does have the flaky element that add a little bit of a heft to it. But something interesting despite it being a flaky polish is that for me, it dried down very smooth. It was not textured whatsoever, so I was able to get away with doing 1 coat of my top coat. Now moving on to the thermal of this collection, we have doppelganger, and this is a dark purple plum color to a light pinky purple color with these pink micro shimmers going throughout. So on the first coat, it gave me a little bit of a spook because it transitioned into the warm state color, and that almost gave me a barely there type of vibe. So I went in with a second coat, and the second coat definitely deepened the color up for me, and in my opinion, I felt like I had full coverage in 2 coats. It was more evident when I transitioned it over to the cold state, which is that darker purple, and I didn't see any patchiness. But even in the warm state, I didn't see any patchiness. Formula for this polish is easy to work with for me. I didn't struggle applying the polish. However, it is on the thicker side, similar to the other polishes in this collection that I've noted as being thicker. It's not thick to where I feel the need to add thinner to it, but it is noticeable that it is of a thicker viscosity. Next up, we have the Silent Scream, and this is the last magnetic of this collection. Now, this one's your basic black to silver magnetic polish. However, the silver is more of a gunmetal gray versus a vibrant, almost white leaning silver of sorts. It did provide really good coverage on the first coat, similar to Clair de Lune. However, I do want to go in with a second coat just to ensure that I do have that full coverage, but honestly, 1 coat really did it for me unmagnetized. And similar to Clair de Lune, you will be seeing brush strokes in your polish, and so you have to be careful in the last brushstroke that you do. When magnetized, I have to say, I don't know what it is about these 2 magnetics in this collection, but it's giving me almost a gel-like effect because of how finely milled these magnetic particles are, and I'm really enjoying it. I know this is a very basic black and silver polish, but the way the magnetic particles gather together and the overall velvety, silky look that they have been giving us is very, very nice. Rounding up the collection is Hell's Other People, and this is a plummy linear holographic polish with what looks like to me maroony or burgundy to purple shimmers in the mix. Now, similar to Heart on the Platter, this one applied very, very well. I essentially had full coverage on the first coat, and again, formula is very easy to work with, as it's usually the case with linear polishes. Now, I do want to showcase the shimmers of this polish. As I'm tilting my nail down, you can see that the shimmer turns into this very dark red of sorts. As the nail comes back up, you see the purple pinky shimmer, and just like Heart of the Platter, I did do 2 coats just for assurance purposes. However, when comparing the first coat and the second coat, it's kind of hard to see any differences in there. I could say that the second coat's much darker and more richer, but I don't see too much. I could say maybe that the shimmer aspect is more prominent in 2 coats versus in 1 coat, as the pinky version of the purple pops up more. Now, something I forgot to mention when swatching Heart of the Platter is that these 2 linear polishes do dry semi-matte. If you want the most hollow effect, definitely add a glossy top coat, otherwise the matte top coat will dull the hollow down. Now, looking at these polishes in the outdoors sunny area, we have here my left hand with from pinky to thumb is the Living Doll, Clair de Lune unmagnetized, and then magnetized in the cat eye, Heart in the Platter, and Pearl Clutcher. All of these shots taking in different lighting are 2 coats of each polish with no top coat, and in here you can see how sheer the Living Doll is on my pinky, and then Heart in the Platter showcases the hollow very nicely because of the sun. When showing off Pearl Clutcher, it's so bright when the light reflects on it. It has to be that white shimmer of sorts. And then Clair de Lune on the cat eye, it was much darker in my office room, but here it looks very similar to how it appears unmagnetized, which I found rather interesting. So on my right hand from pinky to thumb, I have the doppelganger, the silent scream, unmagnetized, and then it magnetized in the cat eye effect, Hell is Other People, and on the thumb we have Requiem for a Swan. So the doppelganger is running warm. I am outside. It is a warm day despite fall leaves being on the floor. So it's only predominantly showing the pinky purple aspect. Nothing much has really changed with the silent scream in the sunlight. Of course, the hollow is going to pop most in the sun with Hell is Other People. Now, ignoring the nail break in the corner here, Requiem for a Swan is very pretty. Of course, the hollow's popping and the flakies are very prominent. I just love the multi-dimensional look that this polish gives with the flakes in the hollow, especially in the sun, but otherwise it doesn't look too different from how it looked in my office room. Now moving on to outdoor shade. I am recording all of these lighting situations on my phone, and it's very prominent in the Living Doll because the shimmer is fanning out and being very, very prominent when in actuality it's not that prominent. But in the shade, the hollow is taken away from Heart in the Platter and it looks like your standard dark red color. And then the cat eye effect of Clair de Lune has now blown up a little bit since it's not really as defined as it initially was. And in the shade, Clair de Lune looks very metallic-y of sorts. And also you can see the darker shade of purple better in the shade compared to how it looked in the sun. The one that shines the best in the shade is honestly Pearl Clutcher. It just, the metallic-y chrome aspect of it is so pretty and you can see the shiftiness of it as well. Now onto the right hand in the shade, Doppelganger has now deepened itself. I'm not sure if it's just because I'm in the shade or because it's now somewhat colder since the sun's not hitting it directly and it's in that midway transitioning color. And then the Silent Scream, it's reflecting off my tree honestly, so the yellow color that you see there is not the polish itself, it's the reflection it has. And again, this is without top coat. Requiem for a Swan, you predominantly see the flakes and the hollow is no longer showing itself. Now moving indoors, we have the left hand and everything is very matted out of sorts. The one that again thrives in this environment is Pearl Clutcher. Everything else is kind of dulled out. And here I'm trying to showcase the different shiftiness that Pearl Clutcher does have. And it's again much easier to see in this shaded indirect lighting of sorts. Again, as a disclaimer, I'm filming this on my phone. The phones, for whatever reason, amplifies the shimmer effects. So it's not as stark as it shows in this video footage. Now moving on to the right hand. Everything is much darker. Again, the pinky for doppelganger is still in that darker shade. Can't really remember if it's because it's in the midway transitioning or it's just the way that the warm tone is, or maybe I'm actually cold. I don't remember the state of my body during the time of filming, honestly. And then everything else is pretty dark. The silver magnetic particles of the silent scream are very pronounced, and the cat eye has spread out a bit now, so it's predominantly silver. And then requiem for a swan, you kind of get a glimpse of holo when the light from the window hits it, but otherwise the holo is gone, and what's predominantly there is the flakes showcasing very gray slash dark silver of sorts. Now moving on to comparisons, we have here the living doll, and I thought comparing it next to Mooncat's A Midsummer Stream and Starrily's Somnia. Midsummer Stream is way paler, almost like sun faded type of pink, and the shade of blue for the shimmer is also very different. The closest one is definitely Starrily's Somnia, which almost have similar type of pinks in the shimmer as well. Then I thought of comparing it to Holo Taco's Cloud 9 and ilnp's Flower Child. Cloud 9 is more of a deeper pink, and the shimmer of it is almost cyan-y, frosty looking of sorts. And then Flower Child is a glitter polish. I would say the pink is slightly different, and also the shimmer of Flower Child is much more prominent than the living doll. Then I thought of Mooncat's Sakura Serenade and Holo Taco's Pop Rocker, as they're technically pinks with blue shimmer in there. However, Sakura Serenade and Pop Rocker are much more in the hot pink area type of pinks, leaving the living doll to look very pale than how it looked with Midsummer Stream and Somnia. For Heart on the Platter, I thought of comparing it next to Mooncat the Arsonist and Holo Taco's Red Licorice. Red Licorice is Holo Taco's red linear holographic polish. You can see the differences in the holo flare here too, aside from like the obvious different shade of red. And then the Arsonist is more of an orange leaning red with orange shimmers going throughout, so still again very different from Head on the Platter. And trying to compare it to more holo polishes, I have here Holo Taco's Naughty List and Holo Taco's Orbite Me, and I would say neither of these are relatively close to Heart on the Platter, mainly because the different types of holo attributes, like Naughty List has more glitter attributes along with somewhat scattered holo going throughout, and then Orbite Me is a crushed holo formula. And then I have here Holo Taco's Cardinal Sins and Holo Taco's Misfire. Misfire because I felt like the dark red might be similar to Heart on a Platter, and then Cardinal Sins because I thought it was darker, honestly, but as you can see, they're very different shades of red, but also different types of holo going throughout. And then I thought of Mooncat's Lord Vader in the reverse magnetization style, meaning the silver particles are underneath, bringing forth that back end color, which is this nice pretty red. And then Mooncat's Bottled Rage. So I wanted to see how these two reds compared to Heart on the Platter. Bottled Rage, mainly to see how red prominent the shimmers are, but it's predominantly black base with the shimmers going on. And then Lord Vader, you have to work to get that red, so it's not like it's right there. Then I have here Mooncat's Dawn of the Empire Unmagnetized and ilnp's Sabrina. Now, Dawn of the Empire, in my mind, I saw it as more of a red leaning magnetic polish, but it's predominantly orange. Then Sabrina is an even darker red with micro flakes going on. Moving on to Pearl Clutcher, I have here Mooncat's Momento Mori and Cracked Skelly Bones. Momento Mori is more of an actual white jelly base with orange shimmer going throughout, and Skelly Bones has this predominantly blue hue to it, so quite different. And then I have here Mooncat's Witch Hazel and Mooncat's Ghosts of Hecate. Now Witch Hazel has more of this pinky orangey tint to it, and Ghosts of Hecate is more of a really sheer white with these shimmers going throughout, and these shimmers give it a very yellow sheen to it, so not quite. Then I thought of comparing it next to Mooncat's Sheep's Clothing and Holo Taco's Rider Diamond, kind of trying to find my white silvers of sorts. However, Sheep's Clothing is a linear polish, and then Rider Diamond's a very glitter heavy polish, so not quite the same finish as Pearl Clutcher. So here I have Holo Taco's Sugar Rush and Holo Taco's Pearl Gray. So neither of these really have that pinky blue shimmer going out. Sugar Rush has a yellow shimmer going in, but it's also quite a different finish than Pearl Clutcher alongside with Pearl Gray. Surprise, instead of 3 we have 4 here. So I have Holo Taco's Swan Song, Holo Taco's Glazed Over, and Holo Taco's Milky White Shimmer. Now these are more of a white crelly polishes. Pearl Clutcher compared to these 3 looks very silver leaning, so not quite. Moving on to Clair the Lune, I have here Mooncat's Quicksand's Embrace Unmagnetized and Mooncat's The Stolen Kiss. Now I thought Quicksand's Embrace might be a little bit more purpley, but clearly it's more on the nude family. And then the Stolen Kiss almost gave me a similar vibe in the bottle, just because in the bottle it looks slightly purple leaning, more so than pink, but on the swatch stick it's a distinguished pink polish. And then here I have Mooncat's Love Bomb and Mooncat's Tool Who Ghosted Me Unmagnetized. Love Bomb had more of a mauve-y look to it, so I wanted to see how it would compare to Clair the Lune. And then To All Who Ghosted Me is a purple, but again, just wanted to compare how those purple look next to each other. Now I know what you're thinking, Yanelli, Fields of Lavender looks nothing like purple, but listen, there is a purple color underneath somewhere amongst all those magnetic particles. So I have here Mooncat's Field of Lavender and Holo Taco's Wild Child. So Wild Child, I wanted to see how close a creme could get to that shade of purple, because Clair the Lune's purple is very unique to me. I don't have something like it, so I am trying to figure out where it lies in between. And then here I have Holo Taco's Iron Violet and Holo Taco's Camera Shy. So in the bottle, Camera Shy looked like a lighter purple, more gray leaning, similar to the type of mauviness that Clair the Lune gives. However, on the swatch stick, it's a very like prominent dusty purple. And then Iron Violet's on its own league over here. Moving on to Requiem for a Swan, I have here Holo Taco's Black Hollow Wish and Mooncat's Pumpkin King. I did give my bottle away, so I only have the swatch stick here, but you can tell the difference kind of immediately, as the other two are very saturated with their other glitters, whereas Requiem for a Swan has the soft dusting of Holo and then the flakes kind of overtake. And then lastly, I have here Holo Taco's Blacklisted and Holo Taco's Silent Library. And Blacklisted is probably faded, honestly, compared to Requiem of Song. It's much more of a really dark gray at this point. And then Silent Library, I thought maybe the flaky attributes could be very similar, but I'd forgotten that Silent Library's flakes are on the blue slate side. Moving on to the doppelganger, I have here Mooncat's Port 6666 Unmagnetized and Mooncat's Hell is Other People, which is part of this collection. So Hell is Other People and the doppelganger immediately made me think that they were really close to each other. The main difference is their formula attributes. One's a thermal, one's a linear holographic. And then Port 6666 is more of a true bluish leaning purple of sorts, so not quite. Then I thought of comparing it to Mooncat's Raven and Mooncat's Nightcrawler. So Raven is more of a black base with purple pinky shimmers going throughout, and then the Nightcrawler is more of this dusty purple with purple to pink shimmers in the mix, so quite different than the doppelganger in terms of formulation and color. I know these look a little like, yeah, no duh, they're different kind of thing, but like, hear me out. So here I have Mooncat's Love Bomb and Mooncat's Fields of Elysium, and I mainly wanted to compare them in the warm state of the doppelganger because I felt that Love Bomb was fairly close to it. However, Love Bomb is more of a deeper color compared to the doppelganger's warm side. And then Fields of Elysium is green. And then I got curious how this compares to other Mooncat thermals, so I have here Mooncat's Queen of the Dead and Mooncat's Dark Omens. Now, all of these are very different from each other, not only in the sense that there's shimmer involved in the doppelganger, whereas the other two are just plain cremes, but also the colors that they transition to are very different. And then I started comparing it next to Mooncat's Freshly Bitten and Mooncat's Queen of Chaos. I thought for some reason Freshly Bitten was more purple leaning and not so much on the pinky red side, but here we are. And then Queen of Chaos is this like, it can look purple and then it can look indigo depending on the color next to it. So not quite. For some reason, I felt like I have a lot of polishes to compare with doppelganger. So here we are with Holo Taco's magenta jelly and purple slushy. Now, those are two linear holographic polishes, and I would say the doppelganger is what the color would be if you combine the two. So there's that. For more comparisons, I have here Holo Taco Tanzanite Away and Holo Taco Vine to Table. Tanzanite Away is theoretically a indigo shade with these red shimmers going throughout. So the shimmers in the base color is what kind of gives the illusion of purpley. And then Vine to Table is a plummy color. However, it is a crushed formula and not a thermal, so not quite. And lastly, for doppelganger, I have here ilnp's Guestless and Cracked Hex Mix. Now, Guestless to me on the bottle looked slightly similar to doppelganger in the cold state, but when on the swatch stick, Guestless is definitely much darker. And then Hex Mix, it's kind of on its own over here. It's this very vibrant purple of sorts. Finally moving on, we have the Silent Scream, and for that I have here Mooncat's Imperial Stormtrooper and ilnp's Overload. So this is how they look unmagnetized, and you can see the different shade of gray / silver and then black. But when you magnetize them in the cat eye effect, you can see it's essentially the same bases, a black base with a silver magnetic pole. However, the Silent Scream's silver magnetic pole is much more prominent and almost has like an aura flare of sorts to it. Like it's not a solid line of sorts. And then I started comparing it next to ilnp's Moonlit and Holo Taco's World First. So Moonlit is very close to how Silent Scream looks unmagnetized. Moonlit does have extra elements like holographics pigments in there. And then World's First is a singular chrome polish, but I mainly wanted to compare how that silver looks next to the Silent Scream unmagnetized. And then when we magnetize it, again, same basis with Moonlit and the Silent Scream. They're both a black base with a silver magnetic pole. Of course, the difference is ilnp has holo in there, and also the way the magnetic particles form together. I feel like Mooncat's is more refined despite having the little gray aura effect going around the line. Then for Hell is Other People, I have here Mooncat's Freshly Bitten and Mooncat's Love Bomb. A lot of these comparisons are going to be very similar to what the doppelganger has, but I'm not going to subject it to like all the ones that I did for the doppelganger. I think these are pretty self-explanatory in how different they are. Then I have here Mooncat's Port 6666 unmagnetized and Mooncat's Fields of Lavender in the reverse magnetic, which means the orange magnetic particles are underneath, leaving the purple aspect at the top. Now this is what I wanted to showcase with Clair Lune, but I grabbed the wrong swatch stick, but just imagine it. You can go back and forth on the playhead here. But as you can see, these are very different. Then I have here Holo Taco's Vine to Table and Holo Taco's Magenta Jelly. And Vine to Table, again, is that plummy crushed holo formula. The colors, if it weren't for the holo, I feel like the base colors could be slightly similar. And then Magenta Jelly is too pink leaning, so not quite. Then rounding up the comparisons, I have here Holo Taco's Tanzanite Away and Holo Taco's Purple Slushy. Again, Tanzanite Away for similar reasons as I had for the doppelganger. I felt like the combination of the base color and the shimmer could maybe give it the same illusion of a plummy color. And then Purple Slushy, very different than what Hell is Other People is like. And that concludes the swatch comparison portion of this video. Let me know any and all your thoughts down below and we can talk about it. I know this video is very late in comparison to when this collection released, so some of you may have already purchased some stuff from this collection or the entire collection, but I would still like to know, like, what are you considering, and you know, just your general opinions on this collection. So for me, I was very shocked at how much I was enjoying a lot of these polishes. I was swatching them and like I would catch myself, I'm like, I'm liking this. Like genuinely liking it. Like some of them were okay. Like obviously I didn't enjoy every single one. I think I have 3 that I really enjoy from this collection. Hell is Other People, Heart on a Platter, and Clair de Lune. Clair de Lune because it looks fake to me. when I magnetize it in the cat eye, like having the magnetic under my thumb or my finger pad and then brushing it on, it feels fake in the best way possible. And it's because mooncat uses these very finely milled like magnetic particles or something, and it almost gives me the illusion of gel magnetics, especially when I do clair de lune in the velvet effect. It's giving me that same vibe that I see when the gel girlies do it. And then for me, the most boring polish of this collection is between two. It's the Silent Scream, and I wish I didn't like it solely because of the name. The name reminds me of Sailor Pluto, and Sailor Pluto's like main attack move is Dead Scream, and it just reminds me of that, and I wish it was Sailor Pluto coded instead, but here we are. And then honestly, the Living Doll. I think I'm tired of seeing baby pinks with blue shimmers. Now, I do want to apologize again for how late this video is. I am trying to find a balance of wanting to do more YouTube videos that aren't just swatch videos of new collections coming out. I want to do more videos that are like my top 10 mooncat polishes, my top 10 holo taco, top 10 browns, top 10 blues, or top 5 blues. Top 10 might be a lot, but you know, something similar to that. Or who am I watching? Oh, I don't remember her name. It's like the Nail Niche, I believe. She does like prompts, and I don't know where she's getting them prompts, but I kind of want to do something like that, like what's my unpopular opinion, or reading your unpopular opinion on nails and nail polish and stuff like that. Like, I think that would be fun, doing a Q&A, live streaming. I want to do more live streaming as well. So I'm trying to find this balance of being somewhat on time with these swatch videos for collections, but also having fun and like actually playing with my polishes and not just dumping collection swatch videos, you know? And also nail art. I love doing nail art still. And I guess that would be part of my lives, because if I do the lives, then I'm not forced, but like I'm forcing myself to sit down and do nail art that I know I've been wanting to do for a while. Like, after being in the office here for a while, swatching polishes, and it's just kind of like, I don't want to be up here anymore. I want to be downstairs in the living room with Evan, or I want to play some games downstairs with friends, you know? Like, swatching takes a very long time, and sometimes it does take the joy away of playing with polishes, I'm not gonna lie. So that one week where ilnp was releasing something on the 26th of September, and then mooncat was also releasing something on the 26th of September, and then Fauve was releasing something within, or like pre-orders during that time as well, and I had their collection sent to me, and I haven't touched it. I haven't touched it because so many other brands were also releasing stuff at the same time. I'm just like, swatching. I'm just like, I'm tired of swatching. I want to take a little break. Hence why things are late and amongst the other stuff that I mentioned before. So yeah, just thought I'd explain myself and share with you some of my thoughts and feelings so far. But not to say that I don't want to do swatching. Obviously, I still enjoy it. I think in me doing the comparisons on swatch sticks, going back to the roots, if you know, you know, I think that's going to help alleviate some of the dreariness that I sometimes feel when I do swatching. But anywho's, the curtain is ready to close, and so am I. Thank you again for watching and hanging out with me. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.